just can't bring myself to finish this visual novel. Honestly, the premise had potential, but then I remembered I was playing a Yuzusoft game. The whole "but then the protagonist wakes up again the next day" is used all of once, and then you are given a choice to join Cafe Stella or die. And the best way I can describe the common route is like, you know that first 5 minutes of Nekopara Volume 2 where all the cat girls are doing their jobs in Casho's bakery cafe thing? The common route of this game is like 8 hours of that and 30 minutes outside of that doing other things, with sprinkled foreshadowing hinting at what each route is about. I knew that's what I was getting into, but
それは違うと思うよ。もう殺すわよ。
じゃあバトルスタート。
かっこいい。もしかしてスキャンダル？冗談なのか？そうだけど。
Cafe Stella and the Reaper's Butterflies hits you with an interesting premise. One day, Takamine Kosei tragically died in an accident, but the very next day, he wakes up again. So I thought we'd be leaning more into that, but don't worry. As mentioned, this is Yuzusoft, and they seem to love to give you an interesting premise and then vaguely remind you of it every now and then, since slice of life romance is now the focus. And see, I don't have much of a problem with that. In fact, this visual novel now boasts one of my favorite H scenes of all time, which is a feat, as I typically don't care about them, but it just feels like they could have done a more interesting common route that still could have been concluded before branching off into the character routes. To be honest, the game won. I could not bring myself to finish it even in the 2 weeks since it has been released. I thought it was because I was in my visual novel off-playing cycle. But then I recently binged Ace Attorney Apollo Justice, so I think it has more to do with Cafe Stella than myself. The romance in this game is pretty good at times, and I enjoyed it for the most part. The writing feels consistent with the only other Yuzusoft game I played, that being Senran Banka. However, I've played 2 Yuzusoft games at this point, and I'm beginning to think I have a pretty good grasp on their formula. But I can only beat a dead horse that died 5 years ago only so many times, so let's talk about the story in a bit more detail anyway. So yeah, Kosei dies and then wakes up again. So what happens next? Talking cat, mysterious girl, spirit butterflies, and now you're asked to work for a cafe? And if you don't, you die. And I mean literally, quickest bad end in the Wild West. But back up a minute, spirit butterflies? Once is a coincidence, twice is not. Summer Pockets also employs the spirit butterflies card, which makes me think there is something more to it than I know. So please let me know in the comments if you're knowledgeable about this. And if you're not, well, comment anyway, telling me the story of your depressing life. But anyway, on that note, the full name of the game is Cafe Stella and the Reaper's Butterflies, so it's not really trying to hide much of its common route premise, with the main alluring content being the character routes themselves. The main conflict is more or less solved immediately, which makes the transition into other girls' routes simple enough. I can at least appreciate the other girls don't just completely disappear once you're in a route, which can be common in visual novels, but for story reasons, whether you like it or not, you are stuck with them. My favorite is Natsume by a long shot. She brings out the masochist tendencies in me that I never knew I had until now. Second is Kanna for 2 reasons. And her voice actress, whom I love but couldn't disassociate from Fruit of Grisaya's Sachi, so whilst playing Cafe Stella, I mentally referred to her as Sachi until I finally disassociated that from her and could call her Kanna. The childhood friend character Nozomi is here too. I'm naturally biased against childhood friend characters, but she's okay. Mei, on the other hand, is a character I can't currently bring myself to like. She's the upbeat kohai with her personality being too up in your face, if you know what I mean. I typically don't like highly energetic characters, but if I ever happen to finish this visual novel, maybe her route will surprise me. Finally, we have a single side route character, Suzune. Suzune is the lolly One-chan to one of Takamine's college friends, and can be quite fickle to deal with depending on her mood. She solidly fits in the middle of the characters I like, and you can probably surmise 4th and 5th. The story ends up being somewhere between okay and good for me, and there's a nice variety of characters that you may become enamored with. If you're looking for a relaxing cafe set visual novel, Cafe Stella might be the visual novel for you, but unfortunately I don't think it was the visual novel for me. It looks fucking fantastic, as Yuzusoft visual novels typically do, and it pretty much has everything you'd want from a visual novel. I'd go as far as to say that Yuzusoft visual novels are the peak of what a visual novel engine should be. The amount of settings they give you is phenomenal, and being able to have a secondary language is useful for when I want to look up the definitions of Japanese words, since kanji is a bitch. Of course, the amazing sprite and CG quality should be mentioned. It's exactly as you'd expect from Yuzusoft, and they deliver. It feels great to just look at the game, that's for damn sure. Something also needs to be said about how they update the sprites as the characters are talking, which I respect the ever-loving hell out of, but like, whoever's in charge of doing that, I'm so sorry. The soundtrack, as well, is pretty good. It has a little bit of everything, and a lot of the tracks are very relaxing to listen to, whilst others definitely bring out the energy of a bustling cafe, or some will just make you depressed. Now, 2 final things. If you buy this visual novel from Steam, there's a free patch you can apply that adds back the H scenes, and miraculously, you can still get achievements. Yuzusoft transcends the Steam barrier apparently. The H scenes do have mosaics, which seem to piss off a lot of people, but I don't really care either way. Just thought I'd let you know. Second, whilst this visual novel certainly is in peak form in almost every way, it almost feels empty, which is probably due to the writing, leading back to how I felt the common route to be the weakest part of the game. And then everything else is too good. The engine, the visuals, the soundtrack, the backlog, the settings, this guy's creepy smile. It feels soulless. I'm not saying it's bad, but I just feel like it's missed potential. But maybe I doth protest too much and should just fap to these girls like the rest of you. Overall, I like this visual novel. It's not a drop every visual novel you are currently reading to read this kind of visual novel, but if you happen to have time, it might be worth the read. It's probably like a 6 for me. If anything, I am planning to finish it at least one day. Hopefully, maybe, though I can't even finish my videos, so don't expect much. And don't forget to hit buttons, and I'll see you whenever I decide to get off my lazy ass and upload.